Hello, welcome to one of hopefully many Training Cornerstone Media videos. Um, this video is going to cover some basic level setting, not in too much detail, kind of give you a quick overview as to what buttons and faders you want to look at on the board. So let's get right into it. This is the trim knob. Everything at the board comes through the top of the board all the way down through to here. So when a signal comes into the board, it's starting, the signal flow starts at the top of the channel that you're working with. Here I'm looking at channel 25. This knob, as I've discussed, is a little different from other knobs when you're treating sound, is that it's not a volume knob, it's a level knob. What it does, it affects the level at which the signal coming into the board is set to. So rather than thinking how much volume I have, you want to think about how much level you have. So over here, I have a signal coming in on channel 24. You can see I have a little light blinking there. And then if I come over here, you can see this light oscillating up and down. Don't think of it as a volume, think about it as the level. All over the board you'll see these decibels. On your radio, to further distinguish between how it's not a volume, it's a level, is on your radio you have a knob. It's, from 0 to 10 maybe, or some finite volume to finite volume. On this we have a scale. Okay, so the center of it is 0, the bottom of it is -30, and the top of it is +20. It's a level, right? So it can go below 0, it can go above 0, and why is that? We'll talk about further. So as you can see, this level oscillating, it's set by this trim knob. So this is just a recording being played by Spotify, and it's going to go up and down. So if I turn this to the left, you'll see it goes down. If I turn this to the right, you'll see it go up. Now, one of the things to note about this is this doesn't turn the signal off. Okay, in this case it does, because the signal is low enough, but there will be instances where all this is saying is you aren't boosting it at all, right? So if you notice, this far left-hand symbol on this knob is U. U is effectively meaning you're not doing anything. U is unity. It means you're not boosting it, and you're not cutting it. So if you notice, this far left symbol means is U on this outer decibel scale. That means you're not boosting it or cutting it. You're not doing anything to it. The internal scale, there's two types of decibels I won't really get into, but basically just meaning if you had a different signal level standard, unity would be up here. But for the most part, you can just know that the gain knob, you're gaining to a signal. So a signal, if it's not enough, you're boosting it. So you set that level. As you can see, I'm all the way to the left, and I still have some signal. It doesn't turn it off. It just attenuates it up or down. So when you set this level, this is the level coming into the board. You want to turn that knob until you're peaking around 0. Okay, and you're gonna go above sometimes, and you're gonna go below. A typical signal. Now this is produced. This is just a song from Spotify, so the top and bottom of this signal is going to be fairly tight. Typically with a live performer, an uncompressed live performer, you're going to get about a 10 to 15 decibel swing. So what that means is you're going to go from -7 to +7, as I'm even doing here with this compressed signal. This scale is not linear, so as you notice, the spread goes from 0 to 7, 10, 20, 30, right? So this same spread at a lower signal would be between these two little lights here. But the point being, you don't want to peak too high above 0, because as you can see, that spread is so wide. Up at the top of my level here, I only have a 10 decibel swing. The same swing set a little bit higher, I'd be clipping at this red line. You'll hear that in a signal. So when you set your level, you're gonna get a baseline of your performer at a healthy level, at a healthy singing or playing tone, and you're gonna set them so that they're right around 0 on the fader, and you wanna try to get them at their highest. So you want to get them to play a peppy song or a loud song, get a baseline for what their biggest level is, and you want to set that so that it's not peaking much higher than 4 decibels on regular, 7 at the most, because you know that if they do get really into it, they're going to go right up into 10. So step 1 when you're getting your levels is get that input trim set. Once that's set, one of the most important things to know is you shouldn't really be going back to that. Sometimes one of the novice things to do is you'll go ahead and start mixing with that knob, thinking that that's your level. That's not your level. That's just your input signal. Once you get that set, as long as you're at unity, that signal is going to flow down. If I'm at unity everywhere else, on every other fader, so all my sends, 12 o'clock is typically unity on these things. So theoretically, if I'm at unity on everything else, if I'm at unity on my fader, that means that signal, as I took it in, is at that same level. So all the way through at unity, that means you're not doing anything to that starting signal. Everyone's getting that same balanced, good, healthy signal. So that's where you start. Coming all the way down on the channel, you have your EQ. To start out, I kind of ignore it for people that are just starting, because you have to take a lot of these same principles that I'm going over now and apply it to spectrum, which gets a little complicated, and I'll talk about that later. Then you have your auxiliary sends. This is going to vary from board to board, but for us here, they're labeled very messily accordingly. And it's changed through iterations, and sometimes the setup will be dynamic where something one time is not something another time. But how it works on this board is we have 8 auxiliary sends, and they're all going out to the master bus, which is true of everything here, but you have 8 auxiliary sends, they're all going to different things. At the moment, at present, 1 is the drums, 2 is the keyboard, 3 is the primary worship leader's monitor, 4 is the choir and orchestra's monitor, 5 is not used, 6 is no, I'm sorry, I said this is the drums. I said 1 was the drums. 1 is the bassists, 6 is the drums, 7 actually goes out to a reverb bus, and then 8 used to go to our, and it still does, but we don't use it, tape, CD recording. So anything going through that channel gets recorded. And then we come down to the primary fader. This just goes to the house. Now, one last thing regarding the channel. You have a quick guide. So if you look up here at this master section, you don't see any lights selected, but you see some lights dancing here. This is kind of a quick reference for what your signal is doing. As you can see, I only have the -20, the 0, and the +10 to give you an idea where your signal's at. If you're hitting the yellow a lot, that means your level is probably way too high. Red means something's very wrong. And then your fader, for the most part, when you start out a mix, we'll get into mixing later, you want to kind of start at 0 and then build around it accordingly. But again, unity means you're not doing anything to that signal. You get an idea as to how it's sitting at that level in your mix. Then you come down, you have some more buttons here. I didn't really talk about the gray buttons. I'll get into that in a moment.